Okay, we've got some updates.
Welcome to Crocs in the Kitchen.
I am Brian.
And I am Jessica.
Feels like a minute since we've done that.
I know, because all the videos have just been me. But if you guys haven't met my husband formally, this is Brian. He's my amazing husband who's been my rock through this entire thing and pretty much through my entire, life for the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, we have a lot of updates to give you guys. We did learn a lot more this week, and so we just wanted to kind of come on and do a shorter video compared to what we've been doing lately to kind of explain to you what's going on currently and just kind of get you guys up to date. So the first thing that we're going to start with is we did get my pathology back this week.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Wednesday. It was June 22nd. It was a very just nerve-wracking experience to go in there, and we kind of had been prepared for what we were going to hear, but we weren't like fully prepared, and we didn't know if it was going to end up being worse than we expected or maybe better than we expected, and it kind of, I think we ended up being what we expected.
Yeah.
A little bit different, but basically what we expected. So the main thing that I have been diagnosed with is stage 3 large cell neuroendocrine carcinoma of the left ovary. So we'll put that text on there so you can read that as well. I know that's a lot. Stage 3 large cell neuroendocrine carcinoma of the left ovary. Now, neuroendocrine cancers in general are pretty rare, I think, right? Is that what we've decided?
Yeah, they comprise less than 1% of known cancer diagnosis.
But the combination of ovarian and neuroendocrine is even more rare. And so what I have is this rare cancer. How I got this rare cancer, why me, all that, those are questions that run through my mind, but here we are and that's what I have. It's, when we're looking it up, like you talk about like looking up studies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there aren't a massive amount of studies that have been done about this because it's so rare, and then specifically for where it was located at is even more rare. But there just aren't a lot of cases out there, so they don't generally have, like, at least as far as I know from the last things that I've read, they don't generally have like a straightforward plan of attack that they've developed for other cancers like breast cancer or that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and my understanding is neuroendocrine cancers are a lot associated more with like the lungs, maybe like gastrointestinal, other kind of things. So it's that crossover between that and ovarian that is putting us into like this super rare category.
Yes.
And it's a little bit scary. Well, okay, it's a lot scary because Googling stage 3 large cell neuroendocrine carcinoma of the left ovary does not produce fun results. No. Because there aren't a lot of studies, but you also have to factor in a lot of the studies that are out there are people who are a lot older than me.
Yes. I think the average median age for cases like yours is around like 73.
Long story short, basically it's rare. We don't know a lot about it because it is rare, and we are just learning, and we're hopefully going to learn a lot more. It is also locally advanced, meaning that as we discussed before, the mass had grown into other parts of me. It's not like it was like separate, like things popping up on my body. It was locally advanced, just in the area.
But it wasn't just on the ovary.
So yeah, it says serosal, which the serosa is the outer layer of the colon, and muscularis involvement of the rectosigmoid, para-vesical involvement with encasement of left ureter. Sorry, I'm butchering pronunciations, but we'll put that text.
You did really good.
We'll put that text up too. I've been trying to get the pronunciations down, but there's a lot of big words. That just means those are just some of the different areas that the mass had attached to, and the ureter is one of the big ones that we'll talk about in a second. We've talked about before. It was kind of growing around my ureter, which the ureter is the line between the kidney and the bladder. I didn't know that before this. Now I know all about it. Mm-hmm. And so that is kind of what we expected. That news wasn't anything shocking. I think the fact that it was like this neuroendocrine thing was a little bit like weird and kind of threw us off a bit, but yeah. So Then I also have a second cancer.
Yes. And as we kind of joke around, Jessica is an overachiever, and so she couldn't just leave it with one thing. She had to go and get two.
This is not the area you want to be an overachiever
No.
in, but apparently I am. So I have a second cancer, and no, it is not like the same cancer in a different area. It is a second completely different cancer that, unlike the first one, like which we discussed in the previous video, the first one has not been fully removed because they weren't able to remove all of it around the ureter, especially. So there are still cancer cells from that first ovarian mass in me. The second kind of cancer, they believe that they have fully removed. And it was do you want to try to read that line?
So let's see. Synchronous FIGO grade 1 endometrial adenocarcinoma of an endometrial polyp. Remainder of the curettings were benign.
So they did what is called a D&C, dilation and curettage, where they like remove a bunch of stuff from your uterus, and they found one polyp that had cancer. Of all the polyps that they removed, which there were a lot.
The doctor said it was really, really small.
There were a lot of polyps in there, and of all the things that they removed in that D&C, they believe this cancer was just contained to that one polyp that was removed and is no longer there. It's synchronous, meaning that it's a second cancer that exists at the same time I have another cancer, or within a certain amount of period of having another cancer. So that cancer, hopefully, although it will be factored into my treatment, isn't like...
That's not the one that's
not the big thing.
The big thing.
That honestly just feels like, oh, okay, cool at this point, because we've got this other thing that's just like so much more pressing.
Yeah.
They were trying to figure out if it was if my cancer was ovarian or cervical, and my HPV came back negative, leading them toward more ovarian side of things. But yeah, so that's my kind of diagnosis. So once again, we'll just flash up on the screen the text of those two separate things.
Yeah.
Beware if you do Google, like seriously, I've told everybody who I've told this, like Googling is scary, so don't do it. I'm gonna be a good story. If they do a research study on me, it'll be like 36-year-old female kicks ass when it comes to this cancer. So that's where we're kind of at with that. And yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you guys follow us on Instagram, which definitely follow us on Instagram, I'm constantly updating stories and stuff with like the latest real-time updates of what's going on when I can. It actually keeps me going because it distracts me to have like this little like world to kind of, to reach out to our community and have people just knowing there's more people out there praying for me and kind of following along. It helps me a lot just to keep sane, but there are days when I just can't do any Instagram or any kind of anything. So you'll see me kind of come in and out, but I do try to keep it pretty updated on the Instagram stories, especially. So if you guys are on Instagram, just find us at Crocs in the Kitchen, Crocs with a K.
Yep. That one is definitely more of like a live update a lot of the time.
And I am posting it to the Facebook stories too, but I know people aren't as familiar with Facebook stories, but yeah. So if you've been following along, you know that I've been going through a lot of pain and nausea.
Yes.
And Brian, do you want to kind of take the lead in explaining this one?
Yes. So after the surgery, and even while we were still in the hospital, Jessica had been experiencing a lot of pain and nausea. Very exactly like the same pain and nausea that she was experiencing before we went in for surgery. And, while you're in the hospital, you can kind of like pass it off by like, oh, she's still recovering. The doctors say the nerves that are connected there might be causing this and blah, blah, blah. But they had also talked about the possibility of putting a stent in her ureter since the tumor had surrounded the ureter and was kind of constricting it in the first place, causing hydronephrosis of the kidney.
Yeah, so remember the ureter connects the kidney to the bladder.
Yep.
So it's very similar to having kidney stones. In fact, most people who get stents put in their ureter, it's because of kidney stones. And so it's very similar to kidney stone pain, which I know they say is like up there with like childbirth and like other kinds of really painful stuff. So essentially, because the mass had grown around the ureter, that was really causing issues. And they had, like he said, they had discussed doing something about that, but then we kind of decided, well, the doctors were like, it should be fine for now.
Yeah. So then they let her go home, and like you were okay for like a day or two. You were doing really well. Your pain was being managed. You weren't having to take oxycodone as much, and everything seemed to be going fine. And then all of a sudden, you started getting nausea and pain again, and like all this kind of stuff. And that went on for like what, 2 weeks, basically. It was
week, 10 days. I don't know.
It was pretty bad. And even to the point where she woke up in the middle of the night again, just like that night that we went to the ER, and I ended up, driving her around. We actually went back to the ER, and the wait was 4 hours, and so we decided not to.
Yeah, so two times within this time, we were like considering my pain was bad enough overnight that I was like, take me to the ER, which I don't want to be in a hospital, so that's pretty big for me to be like, take me to the ER. But
yes,
we never ended up checking in.
Yeah, we never ended up checking in, mainly because we were like, well, the doctor's office is going to be open in a few hours anyway. We can just wait around and do all that. But she felt a heck of a lot better by the time we got to the ER. And then, like, I don't know, a week later, the exact same thing happened, except this time we didn't drive to the ER. We just sort of drove around in the middle of the night around 4 a.m. to about 5:30-ish and watched the sunrise. It was actually... I thought it was rather pleasant, despite the fact that she was having a lot of pain.
Well, for whatever reason, driving seemed to help relieve this pain. The pain was a lot worse when I was laying down. If I was sitting up or in a certain position, the pain was relieved. And so eventually the doctors were like, okay, let's bring you back in for a CT scan. Let's do some more blood work. Let's do all that. So I went in and did that, and just honestly, the nausea over even the pain was just like, it just made me feel so sickly and like weak and just like sick, and I can't handle nausea because I actually black out. I have a vasovagal reaction when I throw up, which makes me literally black out.
Yep.
This goes back years and years. But anyway, fun fact.
So we ended up, after the CT scan, they were like, okay, you still have hydronephrosis of the kidney, so therefore, obviously the ureter is being blocked, so we should get you in contact with a urologist who can then put a stent in your ureter. We got in contact with the urologist, and he came in and he was like, all right, he's like, we'll get you scheduled to get this done. He goes, I guarantee this is going to help you with those symptoms. He said, and I never say this. He's like, I never say that it's going to like fix your problem.
Well, because I specifically asked him, I was like, do you believe this stent is what I need to relieve this pain and nausea that I'm in? He's like,
yes,
he's absolutely. Like, actually, yes. And he's like, I never say that because you don't want to like promise,
Yeah.
But he was like, and he kind of, in a way, was like, he's like, wait, they never called us in earlier on this case, like the urologist, and like...
He was surprised that he hadn't been called sooner.
I think it was just like, I was right on that border of, do I need it or do I not? And like, it was just like skating back and forth, and so it's really hard to make those calls, I'm sure, for the doctors and everyone involved.
Yes.
But ultimately, he was like, yes, you need this stent put in your ureter. This will help you. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Can we do it now?
I made the joke. I was like, how does today work for you?
Yeah, he's like,
he's like, no. He's like, my person will call you and we'll schedule it. So we got the call later that day, and she was like, hey, we know we need to get you scheduled, blah, blah, blah. How does tomorrow sound? And we're like,
yes. And that was Friday. So the date was Friday, June 24th when they got me in.
Yes.
So today it's Sunday, the 26th?
Yep.
So yeah.
So it's been like 2 days.
Been 2 days. So they got me in on Friday. So I had this procedure, outpatient procedure. It took longer to like prep me, put me under anesthesia, all that. It took like 3 minutes.
It was literally
a
3-minute procedure.
So yeah, they literally just... They don't have to cut anything. They just stick stuff up in there, and they get the stent put in the ureter, and it's like...
Boom. Done.
But I was very emotional coming off the anesthesia. Very emotional.
Yeah, she was crying quite a bit.
And I was, why I was crying? I remember them wheeling me back from like, I'm under anesthesia. Well, apparently whenever I'm under anesthesia and I'm waking up, my first thought is, where's my husband? Where is Brian? Where's my bee? Where is, whatever. Because that's all I'm ever talking about.
She was actually getting wheeled in, and she heard me talking to the doctor inside of the room, and she goes, that's my bee.
and like, I was so emotional because I was just so happy that like,
Because they let you actually stay in the recovery room this time.
I was so happy that they helped me, that they were able to do something to literally help this nausea and pain. And even in the moment, I didn't know if it was going to actually help, but I was just so relieved to have had been blessed with these people, you know, this amazing urologist who could like help me.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I was so thankful for that. And I was super emotional. And of course I wanted my husband, and it was a whole thing. But anyway, we went home that night. The only major thing that night, it was like, oh man, the pressure on my bladder of like, you have to pee like every 30 minutes. I was like, gotta pee, gotta pee, gotta pee. The main difference now is though I can lay down comfortably, where before I couldn't lay down comfortably, but sitting up or standing is a little more uncomfortable with the stent now. So it's kind of reversed from what I was experiencing before, but it's still just like, you know, so much better. And yesterday I had a really good day. I didn't have any nausea. Now today, this is Sunday, the same day that this video is being posted. Today I did actually wake up with nausea and have some problems. So it's not like we're on 100% better, but we're just on
you're better.
Such a better path. Like everyone's like, you look better, you sound better, you
yes.
just, you know, everything.
Yes. But I mean, so that's a win in my book, and you just need to recover from that before we, you know, really move on to the next thing. Well, the next thing happened the day after, and that is we actually did start the egg retrieval process, the fertility stuff, and it's quite complicated for a setup. If any of you have gone through it, you know what I'm talking about. And it requires injections and stuff like that. We're actually going to do a completely separate video just on that alone because, well, one, it's actually pretty interesting, and two, this is basically trying to set us up for our future, for the possibility of us having kids, especially with the fight that we know we have to go through coming up here.
So what's next basically is the doctor, so you guys know, I've talked about the fact that the doctor who did surgery on me is out of my insurance network, so we're having to find a new doctor to treat me. But her assessment of the situation was basically that given the complexity of everything, it's probably going to need chemo, likely more surgery, maybe radiation, we're not sure. Surgery could include a hysterectomy, which is why we're definitely like thinking about egg retrieval, embryo freezing, all that kind of stuff. Again, we'll go into that in a different video, like you said. But right now, trying to find a doctor, we have done a ton of research, and everything's kind of pointing us toward Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, which is insane that we were just in Rochester, Minnesota in March, randomly for a week at an Airbnb that we selected just because we loved the kitchen.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why are you going to Rochester? What a weird place to go. Well, maybe it was setting us up for this. So we are looking at a potential move temporarily to Rochester to get my treatment going. Right now, the Mayo Clinic is reviewing all my files, and so we should have more, hopefully early in this week, we should have more of a direction there, because it's scary to not have a doctor like in charge of my case right now, which is where we're kind of at. And they did say that the cancer, we didn't really discuss this before, but it is aggressive.
Yeah.
So, you know, we definitely want to get on top of this and make sure that but egg retrieval process takes 2 weeks. So it's really just trying to figure out like when I'm going to start chemo and all that. I also wanted to update you guys. You guys are insane. Like after our last video, seriously, you guys raised another $10,000 on my GoFundMe. It's over $30,000. I am blown away. Everyone keeps asking me, do you want to raise the fundraising goal? Should we raise the fundraising goal? Should we whatever? And I'm just kind of like, I don't know an accounting of what expenses I'm going to have. So I feel really bad asking for specific amounts of money when I don't know how I'm going to allot that money. But given all the news we have this week, like we're still going to leave it open. So if people want to donate, even though we've met the goal that's on there, and the goal may rise depending on specific needs, but we're going to leave it open because given everything, like we're looking at years and years of just stuff, you know, whether it be the moving for the Mayo Clinic, going through everything else, or, you know, obviously I have great health insurance, which will cover the bulk of all that, which is amazing. But then there's like housing when we're there, and like just all this other stuff. And then the fertility part is a whole nother ball game. Like when we start getting, I don't even want to think about when we start getting into like actually potentially trying to have these children. Right now we're just trying to get these embryos frozen ASAP.
And especially if we have to go the surrogacy route, which is going to be its own separate challenges
whole
and
thing.
costs and
So this is a long haul kind of thing. I promise you that any money that's raised in there, if I don't need it for my own medical, you know, to treat my cancer or fertility or any of that, like all that money will go towards an amazing cause that we will find, or, you know, someone else like me, you know, if we can find specific cases of people who need it, or ovarian cancer in general, research, any of it, I promise you all that will go. I have a separate bank account set up for the GoFundMe stuff. So I just am blown away and I'm so appreciative. And you guys don't know how much of a weight off of us that it's like when I get a call from, you know, a pharmacy for fertility drugs, it's like, okay, and that will be $2,000. And it ended up being covered. Actually, there was a program that covered me this time, but they're talking about doing 2 rounds, and it's like, it's really overwhelming. But to know that I just have like that bank of money that I can pull into, and we don't have to have that stress on us right now, is so much of a game changer. So you guys, we can't even tell you how much we appreciate that. But yeah, so again, if you want more real-time updates and kind of keep up with everything going on, I recommend Instagram on our stories. You can kind of keep up a little bit better there. I'm generally posting more updates there. I'm hoping this week I can just have such a better week, given that I'm feeling so much better after the stent was put in. But I think that's all we really had to talk about in this one.
Yeah, but please keep those comments and stuff coming. Give that encouragement. Trust me, we do read it, we do see it, and it is amazing to know that not only are there so many people out there that do support us, that are praying for us, that are just sending us good vibes and all of that kind of stuff. It is amazing to see the testimonies of so many other women out there, or men even, that have gone through cancer, that have gone through diagnosis that were worse than this, and have still come through it on the other side. And it gives us so much hope for the future. And I've said this before, I have never once doubted that you are not pulling through this with flying colors. Like you are going to survive this, and you will be a great testimony for everyone else out there. I firmly believe that.
I will certainly try.
Yes. Once again, though, follow us on social media, especially Instagram, if you really want those sort of live updates as we go.
Scout is
she's very
antsy
upset
today.
I've been holding her this entire time.
She really wants to be. We got to go give her attention. She really wants attention.
Come here, Scout. See, look, there's attention right there for you. See all those people?
It's all those people out there.
You can also subscribe to the channel if you really do want to follow us on this whole thing. Some people have asked if this is going to be like, you know, the cancer channel, like going, no, this is still Crocs in the kitchen. We're just not in a kitchen right now, but I promise you we will get back to doing what we
oh, you know, Brian's gonna have all the anti-cancer recipes.
Yeah.
All that
that's
kind of
I've already got plans for stuff and everything, and not to mention we still have a bunch of videos that we recorded in Rochester, Minnesota.
We have like videos that we previously recorded of recipes that we're gonna be releasing. So we need to figure out how to intertwine that with our current lives. But those will be coming too.
Yes, but I think that's all I got for this one.
Definitely all I got.
We will see you next time on Crocs in the Kitchen. Bye.